I found the marketing really invigorating and a lot of fun. So I've partnered with gift stores, I've partnered with restaurants, I've done brunches. I mean, it's Easter, so you can do a lot of things with Easter. Daycares are my number one. I go and I do story time and my book signing, and I make up order sheets ahead of time, and I give them posters so they can advertise. I would say probably my biggest achievement was that I went after Hershey Park, and they bought 60 copies of my book to put in their gift shops and things like that. So it's really, again, it's about what you want to do, and you know how much time you want to spend, and where you think your book should be. You know, your vision, I guess, of what you want to do. So, but I find it fun.
That's a plus if you can look at it that way. That this is you sharing a story with others and being enthusiastic even after it's published, of still wanting to share the story. How about you, Kerry? Strategies for promotion?
I do not find it fun.
We are glad you said that.
Yeah,
two sides of every coin.
Well, I am a raging introvert, so doing any of these things is very draining for me. You know, like I enjoy it while I'm here, but then it's like I go home and I just crash for like 2 days. I did Collingswood last week, and it was a fun day. You know, it was. I had my 8-year-old with me too.
Right.
So it was a fun day. But oh my God, Sunday I was just like, don't touch me, don't come near me. That's
recharging.
Yes, promotional strategies. Well, this one I don't really promote much because it is such a specific book. I have it out there because I want people who are researching these family lines to find it. I don't really promote it. I do bring it to all of my book events though, because so many people are into genealogy and family history now that it's a great conversation starter. They'll see it and they'll start talking, and then sometimes they'll buy the other book. But as far as promotional strategies for this book, I call it spaghetti on the wall because I really don't.
Anybody get that one?
I don't really. I get very frustrated with promotion because I feel like I know all these different ways to promote, but I don't have a plan. Like I can't figure out how to combine them into something that feeds off of each other. You know, it ends up being I do this and it works a little. I do this, it works a little. But like I can't build that momentum, and I feel like I'm missing something. So I get the rights to this back next month, and I'm gonna put the blurb on the back and things like that. Cover and things like that. And when I'm ready to sort of relaunch it, I think I am probably going to talk to. I now know a lot of people who do book marketing and things, and I think I'm going to talk to somebody and make a plan, because I'm very good at checking boxes off of a plan, but I can't make the plan. Like I don't.
Like we're writers, we're not managers.
It's just that is not. Promotion is not, my brain just doesn't do it, you know? So, but if I have somebody that I can sit down with and say, well, here's the book and this is what I'm trying to do, and we can make a plan, then I can check off all the boxes that on the plan that we make, and it'll feel more integrated, and then hopefully each thing will build on each other. I can honestly say that right now, most of my sales are in-person sales. I hardly sell anything online. It's on there as an ebook and a print book, but the sales are almost non-existent, like maybe 3 or 4 in every quarter, if I'm lucky. So most of my sales are in person. So that's where I'm at with the promotional things right now.
Jane, how about you?
What's
your promotional strategy?
I sort of started this just as, you know, for my extended family and stuff like that. And after a while, it's almost like a sample for my, free sample for my business, to promote my business. And since then, I've been, I went down to Ocean City, and we had a big reunion for the family down at the Historical Society, and I gave a donation to the Historical Society and the books and stuff like that, and because that's where she lived. And so now it's become more of a promotional item for my business as opposed to the book itself. So I go to historical societies and stuff like that.
Right. Something that came up within this question was, if you don't feel comfortable or don't know how to do it, it's good to have friends that do. And if you've got money, you can hire people. But sometimes just by a good, solid networking collection of people, you'll run into, oh, my friend's an author, but she also does this. And then you can perhaps at least get some tips and maybe get pointed in the right direction as to what to do with your project. So having a plan and friends works. And then the next thing is, and I'm about to open up the floor for you ladies to also pitch your books, having the pitch. And that's part of the plan too, is that for every book you have this little creak of a door opening into the story that, as you just explained it very quickly, the person on the other side of the table goes, wow, that sounds like a really good story. And then the door opens a little more and you can explain a little more. And hopefully, eventually they say, I gotta get this book. So the pitch and the plan are integral. So what I'd like you to do is give a little information about the book that you have with you. And obviously mention also how much it costs. And go for your pitch. Okay? And also next projects that you're working on, because obviously writers don't spit out one book. We're not one-hit wonders, because there's always something going on in our lives that we can go, oh, that sounds like a good book. Or somebody says something to you, a story, you go, that sounds like a good book, I'm writing it. So your next project, your pitch, and your book. And we're starting with E down at the end.
Next project. So this is interesting. My husband writes poetry, and I'm completely incapable of writing poetry. And it's interesting because it really is how we are as people. He's a sprinter and I'm a marathoner. So we both had the idea. Well, I had the idea and I convinced him that the next one, let's collaborate. Let's do something that combines your poetry and combines prose, and we're just gonna have to weave an interesting story around that. So we've got a couple ideas, and we kind of started with one particular project, and then I have an idea with another particular project. But you're absolutely right. The wheels are always spinning on what's next, how, when, middle of the night. I've got a journal. Yes, I've got a journal where I wake up and I have an idea and I jot it down. I talked a little bit about how my book is my journey, and it's sort of the underbelly of me and my experiences. And what's interesting about it is I wrote it retrospectively. What had happened was my father passed, and I was always a very, very positive person, like incurably positive, always looking for people to be curious so that they can see possibilities in imperfect situations. But this stumped me. Like, I got really, really stuck. And I started to think about, wait a minute, I've dealt with adversity and losses before. What's different? Why can't I get out of this one? And when I really started to dig deep, I realized how it is that I processed through it. And it just dawned on me one day. I said, you know what? I've really got to do this. I can help other people. People get stuck. People get stuck all the time. I can help other people. Personal growth books, self-help books, they tell you a lot of things that you need to do, but they don't tell you how to do it. Like, what's the step to get there? Yeah, that's great that I got to go over there, but there's a gap. Like, how? Like, I need something that I can sink my teeth into to say, if I do these 3 simple things, if I do these 5 simple things, in this case it's 5, if I do these 5 simple things and these 5 simple steps, I can actually start to think about this more. And the more I do it, the easier it gets. So it's $13. It's available on Amazon. I publish through CreateSpace. So thank you.
Mine is also through CreateSpace, as my other titles are. And as a professional storyteller telling stories, when I thought, if I were to write a children's book, I wouldn't necessarily just focus on one story, although some of the tales in there say, it would make a great picture book. Who's to say? But because it's self-published, I could do that. I could pull one story out and create a standalone picture book if I wish to. But I started thinking of the connections of stories with children and the connections of the stories that I choose to tell or enjoy telling the most. And those have to do with growth. And when it comes with children, everything is a growing experience, whether it's a mistake, a triumph, or trying new foods. So I thought, well, I'll put some of the stories together, the ones that I know the best, the ones that I have sort of molded into being my own, and see how I could rearrange them into an anthology. And so it's divided up into the animals told tales, and then the people told tales. And then the final story is called When the Mountains Wept, which is based on a dream that I had. And it's a prophetic story, but it also has to do with cooperation and keeping your promises and honor and duty and all that stuff, having to do with a giant turtle that is stranded on a beach. So when I put the book together, I realized, okay, now I have to figure out what's the reading level and who's going to be reading it and where my, like you said, niche markets and all that. So it's 8 years and up is the reading level, although it has been read aloud to younger children. And when I go around, like Kerry, going to places where I could sell it to a person in person, if I get an opportunity to actually tell the stories, bring them to life, which was the point of telling stories in the first place, and then moving them into a book situation, I had to sort of change them back into the written form from which they sprouted, but now with all the changes that I had done to them. It was a bit of a challenge, and I know because I'm still learning, we're all still learning. It's not perfect, but I've had people say that we didn't think as adults, we didn't think we'd enjoy the stories reading it to our kids, but we enjoyed the stories just as much as the kids. They all have a lesson. There's discussion questions at the back for teachers, librarians, and families that want to talk about the foibles and faults of the different characters and what they needed to learn through the stories. And Rabbit's Tale is $12.
So I have written 5 other children's books. I have not moved forward to publish them because, again, I can't illustrate them, and I'm not going to spend the money. I'm kind of focusing on this book. I have a marketing book that I'm going to use in my business and in my career that I hope to have published in November. I've started a nutrition book. I'm a registered licensed nutritionist, and I have it's a health and nutrition book. And I really want to get a traditional publisher for that, but I've got a lot of work to do. So that's going to be probably like a 3-year journey.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. And like you said, the writing, I guess, once you start, it's just there, it's in you. I started to kind of move out of children's books, again, because of the cost, and go into other books that I had knowledge about and interest in, and just see what happens. This book is really about kind of the mystery behind the Easter Bunny and how the Easter Bunny is able to deliver all those Easter baskets in one evening. So there's a little magic involved, or so to speak, and it's all revealed in the Easter Bunny Secret. And this is $8.
My next couple of projects, I have another middle grade age book, which is 8 to 12-year-olds, in case you didn't know. And it's not science fiction, it's actually a historical, we call it a historical adventure. And I'm searching for a home for that, although we might be, I say we because I'm writing it with 2 other people. And we've been trying to sell it for a couple of years now in its present form, and we haven't had any takers. So we may be edging towards self-publishing it, but it would be kind of sad if we did, just because we all feel like, and I had beta readers who were kids that age and librarians that age and teachers of that age. They all loved the book, so like it's like I can't get past the gatekeeper to get to the publisher, you know, because we really feel like it would be a perfect scholastic book,
Okay.
like a
And
perfect
then it would end
fit.
up in every school, every year at their fair.
I know, we just had our fair.
That would be great.
So I'm working on that. I also have a young adult science fiction that is, I've been sending it out, and I got an agent that really loved it, but she wanted some changes to it. So I'm kind of working on those changes now to see if I can make the change she wanted and still love the book myself.
Yeah.
Because the things she wanted, some of them were very, very like spot on. Like, yes, I can see why this would, but some of them I'm not so sure about. So I have to kind of work through it emotionally as much as physically. But that is the next thing I'm working on. This, The Witch of Zal, is I always bill it as a retelling of The Wizard of Oz with a science fiction twist, because that's exactly what it is. My character goes to Oz. She's not from Kansas. She's from a science fiction dystopian world. And she goes to Oz and she learns about friendship. She learns about the power of being unique. She learns that strength is in being true to who you really are and not trying to conform. And she also kind of learns that maybe when she gets back to her world, maybe it only takes one person to start a revolution. So it sells online. It's on Amazon for $12.99, I think, for the paperback, and then it's also on ebook. But in person, I sell it for $10.
Jane, tell us about your book specifically. Any other projects that you may be working on?
Well, I have ideas for other projects, but they're sort of.
What about your pet project with the animal pictures? Are you moving forward that
Yeah,
one?
well, I'm thinking about that, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what's going to come to.
Well, pitch Grandmother Mare. Sell that thing.
Because it's true, that's part of why we're here.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that. Initially, I didn't think anybody else would be. It's interesting to look at, but it's not.
Well, grab it, open it up, and show some of the pictures.
There's nice pictures, and it's all. Some of the pictures are interesting, I think, and
there you go.
there's it looks like something out of Butch Cassidy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's my grandmother's grandparents.
Wow.
So they go back a ways.
You say they're all colorful characters,
Yeah.
like they're black and white photos, but they're just so
The
fantastic.
candy store that they had on Girard Avenue back in the
Where is this?
Girard in Philadelphia,
Philadelphia,
Girard
okay. Yeah, you did
Avenue,
mention
and
that.
this was a house down the shore that they had down at Ocean City, and it's gone now, of course. I was just down to Ocean City, and everything's gone.
What's the year span?
Most of it, I guess it's early. I forget. I have it down.
Like late 1800s, early
Yeah,
1900s.
yeah, early
I'm looking at the
1900s
clothes.
to-
Picture on the front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Victorian.
Because that looks Victorian, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So she was, and then I have, this is her wedding,
Yeah, I love that.
you know,
photo.
and stuff like their wedding
Yeah,
license and
that's
stuff
so
like
cool.
that.
They were gorgeous.
You know, it was
Yeah.
just, she was very stylish at the time. She made, she was a milliner. She made dressed hats,
Uh-huh.
you know, so that she was really big into the hat things. And this was our last family tree. I did a Star Trek.
How much is it, Jane?
It's all the aunts and
price.
uncles are one color. It was a big 16 by 20. And the people that have passed on are stars
Oh,
and stuff like
Nice.
that.
The price of the book.
So tell how much is the book and where it's available and
Well, it's available from Amazon.com, and this was my first try. This is my first try, and I'm hoping to get to do another one. And
you have your cards for your business as well.
Yes,
right?
I have a lot of cards back there with my, if you, want to take it, if you want.
And you and Kerry both with the genealogical background, there might be some questions about that as well from the audience, we'll see. It's a burgeoning industry of people who are tracking down their ancestors and the photographs and putting genealogical books together like Kerry did so well. How much is your book, Jane?
I think it's, $6 on Amazon.
Okay. And
Okay, I'm gonna talk about the book first and then my other
Sure.
subjects.
that's fine.
My book addresses autism to children, and currently, it's 1 in 68 children are diagnosed with autism. That's the spectrum. They don't even call it autism anymore. It's called on the spectrum. And the book is about Josh and Jenny, and it kind of focuses on Josh's differences in his way of learning and interpreting the world, and also his similarities with other children, because not everybody's the same on the spectrum, and he has special talents, and we talk about that, and his inability to communicate is not seen by his sister. It's about Josh and Jenny, and Jenny's his sister, and his sister doesn't know any different. He's always been Josh, and they were raised together, and she could always communicate for him. And it's kind of a nice story. It's a sibling story. And she and his teachers have been trying to teach him for years to read and write and do math. And one snow day, that's the book, they're home and they play school, because they're home from school, they have to play school. So she gets him to read by her ability to communicate with him the way no one else can. And it just talks about how as time goes on, she's never stopped teaching him. She lives away from home now, and has her own life, but she comes home, visits him. It's like she never left. She always has some wisdom to impart on him. And it's kind of a story of my children, actually. My next project, I call it Fits and Starts. It's a memoir about raising a child with autism. And it's kind of not even close to being finished, but I work on it. And I like short stories. I'm all over the place. I like short stories. I like to write fiction as well. So I'm just trying to dip my toe in the publishing world by submitting short stories. And that's it.
Then didn't you at one point have an idea for a sequel to this?
Yeah, I started that, but I'm not feeling it, you know?
Okay.
It's called Summer Vacation. It kind of, it's going to talk about the challenges of going to places with an autistic child. And if you ever see it you notice it screaming in line or whatever. So, it is what it is, and it's got its own challenges.
And how much is Snow Day?
It's $13 on Amazon, $10 in person.